Hello students, this video covers preparations for the final exam in terms of its structure and how to go about writing the final exam. For videos and PowerPoints about the nature of the two poems themselves, please see the final exams section on Blackboard. The final exam for English 111 Spring 2020 is an online exam. You will have 1 week to complete the exam. You must finish the exam between May 15th and May 22nd. The exam is not timed. You have the entire week to complete it, but it must be uploaded to Blackboard by the 22nd of May. Late exams will not be accepted. You must upload the paper like we have done for all our assignments uploaded to Blackboard for this semester. This should not be new to you, but if you have any questions, please remember that there is the uploading guide in the major assignment section of Blackboard. This exam will be an essay exam that will contain an intro, a body, and a conclusion. When citing the poems, you must use in-text citation. Remember, for poetry, you should cite the line numbers. If you have any questions about this, refer to our section on Jackson's poetry, where we discussed a similar way to cite poems. But you must cite every line you quote. At the beginning in your introduction, you will respond to a question given to you in the exam period. Your essay will answer this question. Some general tips to complete the final exam of English 111. Make sure you make a study plan to study before taking the exam. You should do this by dividing bigger tasks into smaller tasks. Reread both poems at least 3 times. Annotate the poems, marking down information given to you on the PowerPoints and in the videos. Especially mark where you are told that there are symbols, images, or metaphors you can discuss. During the week of the exam, make sure that you are taking care of yourself. A healthy body and mental state is very important for all finals. As a professor, I know how stressful this can be, so please take care of yourself. Don't overdo it with caffeine. Make sure you are drinking enough water to stay hydrated. For this final exam, make sure you have access to both PowerPoints, both videos, and both poems. Make sure you have studied these before you attempt to answer the exam. Writing the exam while trying to read and watch the videos all at the same time is a recipe for disaster. Do not do this. Finally, make sure you plan for when you're going to take the exam between the exam period of May 15th to May 22nd. When you take an essay exam, it is important to understand what the teacher is asking for. Too many students make the error of thinking the best way to answer an essay is to write down everything and anything as fast as they can about the topic. I would strongly suggest before you write your answer, you take time to organize and plan what you write and then write it. Make sure you read the question several times until you clearly understand what is being asked. Pay attention to keywords. Make sure that your thesis statement answers the question in the prompt. Your thesis statement must answer the question that you are being asked. Before you start writing, outline the main points you plan to cover in your answer. You may use all of the materials you have as a guide. Then write and revise your essay. One of your major tasks in analyzing these poems and writing the final exam will be to identify and explain a metaphor or symbol from each poem. As a reminder, a metaphor is a figure of speech that makes an implicit, implied, or hidden comparison between two things that are unrelated. Both the poems that you will read are metaphors for the act of writing. So they will make a comparison between the act of writing with something that is not writing. Next, a symbol. A symbol uses images and descriptions to signify ideas or quality, giving them symbolic meanings that are different from their literal sense. Both of these poems will use symbols to describe what the act of writing is. they will provide you a symbol of an object or concept, but infuse that object or concept with ideas that are beyond just that object or concept. For each poem, please make sure you can find metaphors or symbols about which you can write. For the exam, do not write either of these definitions in the paper. I will assume you have watched this video and studied the materials, so what you need to do is tell me a symbol or image or metaphor from the poem and explain it to me. So let's look at the parts of your essay. In your introduction, I would like you to complete the following tasks. Summarize poem 1 in no more than 2 sentences. Make sure you mention the author's name. Summarize poem 2 in no more than 2 sentences. Make sure to mention the author's name. Finally, the last sentence of your introduction must contain your thesis statement that answers the question. If you do not have a thesis statement in the last sentence of your introduction that answers the question, it will be very difficult for you to achieve a passing grade on the exam. Finally, in your introduction, never rephrase the question. When you take an essay exam, never rephrase the question. In all honesty, your professors think you are simply padding. What I want you to do is answer the question in your thesis statement. For your body paragraphs, and you should have at least 2 body paragraphs to pass the exam, you should do 2 tasks and repeat it. Analyze a symbol or metaphor from poem 1. This is your key task for both body paragraphs. You should analyze a symbol or metaphor from each poem. So your body paragraph should do the following steps. 1, your topic sentence should explain a symbol or metaphor that is connected to your thesis statement. You should introduce the evidence, like we always have. You should quote the evidence, like we always have. You should explain the evidence using 2 steps, like we always have. Remember, the 2 steps are to say what is important, and then explain how what is important from your quote relates to your thesis statement. If you would like to have any reminders about how to use evidence, please check any of the PowerPoints or videos about any of the final papers where we explain this 3-step process. You have done it for every paper that has used evidence for this class for this semester. Next, you should repeat this step with your second poem. You should provide 1 body paragraph for each poem. Your conclusion. In at least 5 sentences, make sure you explain to me how the 2 poems connect to your thesis statement. Why do you feel the way you do about your thesis statement? What is your ideas about why you have written the answer you have written? And 3, explain which poem you feel makes the better argument. You will be asked this in the question. Final tips to remember. Study the poems and reread them. Study the PowerPoints and videos. Make sure you can explain at least 1 symbol or 1 metaphor for each poem. Make sure you can explain how the poems connect to your thesis statement. Make sure your conclusion explains your answer. This is all for the discussion of the structure of the final exam. This will be added to all the final exam materials on Blackboard. Best of luck.